okay, we're going to go over completing the square, which is a pretty comprehensive topic itself, and then we're going to talk about how we can use that form to find the roots, which are x-intercepts. So we're somewhat in our standard form right now, okay? And we'll just talk about what standard form is. Standard form, so I'll put standard here. Standard form is when you have, I'm going to write it in red for now, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Do you remember this form?
Yeah.
Yeah. And completing the square, I'll make some room here, is when we go from our standard form to our vertex. Okay, we're going to vertex form, which is y equals a x minus h squared plus k. Okay, and I'm just going to point out a couple things here. Now notice, the a is actually going to be the exact same number. Okay, so in our vertex form, since this is our a value in our standard form, in our vertex form, our a value is going to be 2. We already know that. Okay, b and c, there is none in vertex form. There's an h and a k. So they're going to be very, very different numbers.
Yeah.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set it equal to 0.
This is vertex form.
Yeah, this will be vertex form. And we're going from standard to this form. And that's what completing the square is. So let's put this standard form right now. We're going to set it equal to 0. So in order to do that, I can move 2 to the other side. And when I move 2 to the other side, what does it become?
It becomes positive.
Positive. So it's going to become positive 2. So let's rewrite this all here in black. 0 equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 7 plus 2. Now these are like terms. So we're going to combine those like terms. Okay? And when we combine it, we get 2x squared plus 8x minus 5. Okay. So right now, we're in our standard form. This is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. Okay? So now I can get into completing the square. When we complete the square, the very first step is we divide the first 2 terms. Okay? Oh, that's not a good color for this. Choose a different color. There we go. We divide the first 2 terms, so that's the 2x squared and the 8x, by whatever, okay, it doesn't matter, but whatever our a value is. So even if it's a decimal, even if it's a fraction, we divide the first 2, so this guy and this guy, we divide by, what is our a term?
2.
2, so we're going to divide both of them by 2.
We always divide by the a term. I think that's even know.
Yeah. So we'll then have 0 is equal to. Now that 2 doesn't disappear. You have to think of it like common factoring. So we've taken the 2 to the outside.
What is it called what we're doing here? Completing the square?
Yeah, this is the first step of completing the square. Okay, and we just common factored the first 2 terms. We took the 2 out. So when we take 2 out, 2x squared divided by 2 is just x squared. And that's our goal. Our goal, the reason we've divided by a is because we're trying to get x squared to have no number, or technically the number 1 in front.
Oh, is this what we did over here? This is the type of square, but with the number in front of the x, like the top right here?
Exactly. So let's keep going. So next is our 8x, and we're going to divide it by 2. When we divide 8x by 2, that becomes 4x. Okay? Now, our negative 5 is still to the outside. Okay? Now, this new term,
wait, oh, that's
right here,
x2. You always have to keep this. You keep this way.
Yeah, you keep that there. This new term we have to put into like this new form here, and this is a little formula that helps us along. B divided by 2 squared. Okay, this is our new B. Okay, we're gonna call it our new B.
Yeah.
So we take the number 4 and we're gonna plug it in here. In this case, it'll be 4 divided by 2.
And then you put in brackets a squared again.
Yeah.
And then
so 4 divided by 2. If you have a calculator, you can follow along. But 4 divided by 2 is going to be the number 2. Okay?
Yeah.
And then we're going to have 2 squared. And 2 squared is going to be 4. So it just so happened to be the same number.
That's my favorite part of it. That's what we're doing over here, right?
And now it won't always be the same number. It just so happened with 4, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Now, what we're going to do is, this is a really important number. We're actually going to be adding and subtracting this number inside of our brackets. Okay?
Oh.
And the reason this happens is because when you add and subtract the same number, it's like adding 0. So you haven't technically changed anything. So I'm going to show you what we're doing. 0 equals, the 2 still stays. X squared plus 4x, they all stay. This is what's different. This 4 we talked about, we're going to add 4. And we're going to subtract 4. And technically that's 0 when you put them together. Okay? And then we have our minus 5. So if you notice, and I'm going to try to highlight this for us. We'll do it in green. Okay? This 4 we just did it right there. Okay, we added and subtracted 4 into the brackets.
Wait, so you did both
add and subtract, and that's really important for this step.
When you got the number,
with this number here, we add and subtract. I'll even draw some little arrows to help us out here. We'll do it in blue. Okay, this number.
So that's the answer for when you added and subtracted.
We added and subtracted it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, in the next step, and I'm just going to write this all out in black here so it's a little easier. 0 equals 2 x squared plus 4x. No, I guess I'll write those in blue so we know we're still working with them. Plus 4 minus 4. Okay. Minus 5. The next step is we're actually going to take the negative number, the negative 4, and we actually need to move it to the outside of the brackets.
Yeah.
In order to do that, we have to multiply by the a term. So because the a term is 2, we're taking negative 4 and we multiply it by 2. So on the side, negative 4 times 2 is going to give us negative 8. So we'll now have negative 8 when it's on the outside of this bracket. So 0 equals 2.
Up here, this wasn't always there, right?
Yeah,
this
we put them in.
This was closed. Like this would have been like the bracket closed, but instead you added and subtracted and put it there.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
Oh, because I was thinking, is that the answer for that? But
no, this is just a step we did.
That's a step, okay.
Yeah, so in our next step, when we pull out the negative, we've got to multiply by 2. So we have 0 equals 2, and we have our x squared plus 4x. The positive 4 still stays. Okay. Now this...
Oh, you do that times that, right?
Yeah.
And then that would
And we got it over here. It's negative 8,
8.
so it's now negative 8 outside the brackets. Okay. And then minus 5. Okay. And I'm going to do this. I'll collect these two like terms in our next step. 0 equals 2x squared plus 4x plus 4. This becomes negative 13. Okay. Now, finally, the last step here is we're going to find the square root of the first and last term. They're going to be really important here. So the first term is x squared. So I find the square root of it. And it is x. And the square root of our last term, which is 4, which is square root of 4 is 2. I'm going to write this in a vertex type form. Okay, those numbers are important. 0 equals 2. My first number here, which was this term is the variable x. That'll be the first term in the brackets. So I guess I'll put it in red. Right? X. Okay. The second term in the brackets will be the 2. Okay. Put it in red. It's 2. Okay. And technically I have a squared outside. Now the operation that goes in between depends on whatever operation is here. So because it's positive, it becomes a plus sign. Okay. And then we have minus 13 on the outside. So this is technically our vertex form. This is our y equals, or f at x equals a x minus h squared plus k. So we just created...
So you turned it into a vertex form.
Yeah. So it's the same equation. It's just now in vertex form at the moment.